Hello, this is a video about the rear elevator torque tube on my Sling 4 kit plane. This is the rear elevator torque tube, also called the short elevator torque tube. And I decided to make a design change because I found that after assembling everything, this elevator torque tube wasn't turning very smoothly. It comes down to how this torque tube is designed to fit into the floor ribs. Normally the torque tube sits in these plastic bushings. You can see they're about a ½ inch thick, but they're drilled so they're just a tiny bit larger than the diameter of that torque tube. So any kind of misalignment in this bushing, and it's just going to press up against the torque tube. Well, the way these bushings are designed to sit in the channel of the floor ribs like that, they go like that, and then there's a closeout bracket that goes on top of it. So it fits kind of snug, but these floor ribs can flex a little bit. And there's 3 of these bushings that hold the torque tube in place. So it's these 3 ribs right here, 1, 2, 3. And for this torque tube to turn smoothly, these ribs all have to be exactly co-parallel to each other, both in this vertical dimension that way and then in this dimension as well. Well, I found that they weren't exactly co-parallel to each other, and despite my best efforts to try to adjust that, I just wasn't having much luck. So I decided to make a change. I decided to change out these plastic bushings for a set of ball bearings. In this case, I chose some stainless steel thin section ball bearings. They're called thin section because they have a, compared to their bore or inner diameter, the outer diameter is not much larger. And they accomplish that by using a series of very small ball bearings, as you can see. Inside the raceway. Normally a ball bearing with a bore this size would be about double the outer diameter. But I wanted something smaller to fit within the existing frame without having to make any modifications. This particular ball bearing also has a flange on it, and that's to keep it from pushing through the pocket that's going to sit into. To take advantage of that design, I came up with a bearing plate to hold that ball bearing in place. And the inspiration for this bearing plate came from the closeout brackets that normally hold the bushings in place. As you can see, they're basically the same design. I just made it a little bit larger and then cut a hole in it that's exactly the size of this outer diameter of this ball bearing. So once that ball bearing is press fit into the bearing plate, that goes onto the rib, just like the closeout brackets did. And really, this is the only permanent modification to the plane. Instead of being held in with 2 rivets, I held it in with 4 rivets. And then instead of using a section of aluminum tube or cut-off tube like the original kit design uses to hold this tube in place, I bought some of these aluminum shaft collars that wrap around the tube and then use a little bolt to screw it down. Seemed like a sturdier design. And then there's a little plastic washer between that shaft collar and the ball bearing. Holds together very nicely. It's very sturdy. It's not going to move anywhere at all. So I did that for all 3 of them, 1, 2, and 3. The only one that was a little bit tricky was this one here in the middle, and that's because I needed to remove this autopilot bracket temporarily so that I could slide both the ball bearing and this lock collar over the tube. So I had to temporarily remove it and then replace the rivets. These are stainless steel rivets. They're 4 millimeters. There's no extras that come with the kit, so that I had to go get some of them on my own, but luckily they're pretty readily available. So I did all that and put it together, and now it turns much more smoothly. I'm very happy with how it came out. This basically was very difficult to turn. It would not move smoothly on its own like this with the bushings that were in place before. I decided to do this modification. Originally I was going to do it on both torque tubes, but I decided to leave the center one alone. Whether it's luck or just perseverance, I managed to get the middle one to move pretty smoothly on its own. Right now it's already connected to the joystick, and you can see it moves pretty smoothly. So I'm going to leave that one alone and just stick to this design change for these bearings at the rear. So that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Check out my blog for more details on how these bearing plates got made. Basically, they're the same material as the closeout brackets. They're 40 thousandths thick, 6061 aluminum. I used a little CNC to cut out the shape so that the hole would be the exact size of the bearing, and then just added these little cutouts to save on size and weight a little bit. Thanks for watching.